Hi, everyone. I'm Nancy Regan, and I'm coming to you today to talk about some RCM frequently asked questions. I did a webinar the other day, and there were some questions that I thought were interesting, and so I thought I'd come live and share them with you. I know I haven't been live in so long, so I'm a little rusty, so just bear with me. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. If you're here, if you're watching live, could you maybe just put in the chat that you're here? Okay, here we go. Now I'm big and the slide is small, but we're going to roll with it like this today. Oh, we're going to roll with it like this today because I'm not sure how to fix it, but it doesn't really matter because we just have just some FAQs today. So we'll roll with it like this. Okay. All right. Okay. It looks like there's 6 people online. If you are online, could you just put a little comment for me just so that I know? Okay. So let's begin. So good afternoon or good evening, or from wherever you are in the world. Put in the chat where you are from. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I did a webinar last week, and there were several questions that I thought were interesting, and so I thought I'd come live and share them with you. So let's start with the first one, and let's begin with. Of course, we're talking about reliability-centered maintenance. And the first question is, should we define critical equipment in the plant? And is that related to reliability-centered maintenance? I love this question because I often get asked the question, how do you figure out what to do reliability-centered maintenance on? And when you're first starting out, that can seem really big, or it can feel really big and maybe a little overwhelming. And a lot of people think that you have to do a formal criticality analysis or some sort of a formal analysis in order to identify what to do RCM on. And you really don't have to. What you can do is just start off simply, and that is ask yourself, what is causing me the most pain? What piece of equipment? And start there, because that way you get to put your available time, your available resources, your available funding, you get to put that into doing reliability-centered maintenance instead of trying to formally figure out what to do RCM on. And that is generally really easy for a lot of people and in a lot of organizations, because you might say, like, oh my gosh, that compressor, or that dehumidifier, or whatever it might be, that thing keeps failing and it's driving costs and it's stopping production, etc. So it's an excellent, easy way to figure out where you should begin applying reliability-centered maintenance. I always recommend that you just start off small. Okay, let's go to the next question. And again, if you are joining me live, if you put a comment in, that would be great, and where you're watching from. And let me just, I want to check on my phone on LinkedIn just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. All right, the next one is this. Is reliability-centered maintenance a one-time study? And if not, what would be the triggers of redoing an RCM analysis on a single piece of equipment or on a group of equipment? So reliability-centered maintenance is definitely not a one-time thing. Reliability-centered maintenance is a living program. So let's say we do an analysis on a piece of equipment now. there really is no specific hardcore rule on when you need to repeat an RCM analysis or when you need to go over it again. It really just depends. So let's say you do an analysis on a piece of equipment and the operating environment, the operational tempo, what you need from the equipment. There haven't been any changes to the piece of equipment. Everything is pretty much the same. Then you don't really need to go over that RCM analysis yet. Now, once things change, right? Maybe operational tempo needs to increase and you're going to start requiring more from the machine. You're going to start operating it longer or more frequently. Any significant changes like that, it would be a good idea to go through the RCM analysis. Now, that doesn't need to take a long time. So let's say it took you 2 weeks to do an analysis. It could take you a couple of hours to maybe up to a day or so to just review that analysis and make any applicable changes. And of course, depending upon how many changes or the complexity of the changes that you're making, that will play into how long. But that would be what governs how often you go back through an RCM analysis. And Andy, hi, you're joining from the UK. Thank you for joining me, Andy. This is a totally impromptu live. I've not been live in forever. I personally had a bunch of huge life changes, and I'm just getting back into going live and doing webinars and stuff like that, and it's good to be back. So thank you for joining, Andy. Okay, let's go to the next question, which is: management is always interested in quick wins for an initiative. Ain't that the truth? Who has not been there? What can be the best quick wins for RCM implementation, which can be seen within a 1-year period of time? Oh, okay. Such a good scenario to imagine. So first of all, yes, generally speaking, management wants answers. They want their return on investment just like that. And generally, reliability-centered maintenance is the kind of process that it takes a while, a year or so, to collect hard data that shows, hey, things really are getting better. But very often, you don't have to wait that long to experience good results and for management to see them. Now, I'm gonna tell you one thing. The first step in the RCM process is writing functions. When we write functions properly, we identify what we specifically need from a machine. Now, I have facilitated some analyses where we have discovered the cause of chronic failure while we're writing functions. And some of you may have experienced this, where chronic failure happens because we're asking a machine to do more than it can, right? So we actually induce failures because we're overworking something. So that could be a quick win for reliability-centered maintenance, where right there in session, you figure out that's why we're having chronic failure. Another way for a quick win could be, for example, maybe an operator isn't operating the machine properly, but not because it's the operator's fault, not because the operator is just doing a poor job, but maybe we have a poor operating procedure, or maybe an operating procedure is wrong, or maybe we have not instituted proper training for that person or for that position. So a lot of times technicians and operators, they get blamed for a lot of stuff, when oftentimes it's because we didn't give them what we needed. We didn't properly train them, or maybe they don't have the right tools. Maybe they're trying to find workarounds for stuff. So there you go. Those are a couple of quick ways that you can get quick wins. One other thing, this is a big one. When we do reliability-centered maintenance, when we do it properly, we use a facilitated working group approach. That is, an experienced facilitator leads a team of equipment experts. When you have, for example, an operator and a maintainer and an engineer, maybe a maintenance planner, when you have various disciplines sitting around a table, working together at the same time on an RCM analysis, all kinds of information gets shared and different perspectives get shared. And the people in the analyses also start to learn about the equipment, even seasoned experts, experts who have been working with this piece of equipment for 20, 30 years, inevitably learn something. So that's another big win for reliability-centered maintenance is everyone starts to get smarter about the equipment, and people it's a big help for the reliability culture, because now it's oftentimes the first time, for example, an operator and a maintainer are working together for the first time, oftentimes they're butting heads. So it's a big win for the reliability culture as well. Let's go to the next question. Okay, one of the challenges faced by companies with human factors include lack of training and resistance to change. How can you address this? Oh, this is another big one. Yes. And it kind of plays into what we were just talking about. A lot, we hear the term human error in our industry, and to a very large degree, it's kind of like we're blaming people. And let's face it, sometimes people mess up. Sometimes people do the wrong thing just because they're humans. But in my experience, a larger percentage of the time, someone didn't do the right thing because we didn't arm them with the proper tool. We didn't give them enough time to do the job that they needed to do. We didn't train them well enough. Maybe our tech pubs are lacking. Maybe there needs to be more detail there. So we really need to step back and think about those things. Now, when it comes to reliability-centered maintenance, two things. First is when you do the facilitated working group approach, and you use a team of equipment experts, the experts often know where the vulnerabilities lay, right? Do they not have the right tool? Is this operating procedure wrong? These kinds of things they know. So when we do step 3 of the RCM process, which is identifying failure modes or failure causes, in other words, what specifically causes something to fail, when we do that, we don't just focus on maintenance related items like oil and motors and failure modes that specifically apply to equipment. We can also include this other stuff, like this operating procedure is wrong, or I don't have the wrong tool. Those can be failure causes, and we can include those in the analysis. So that's another wonderful thing about RCM. If you see here on here, step 7, right here, step 7, default strategies, when we do that step of the RCM process, we consider solutions other than proactive maintenance. So when we do RCM the right way, we have the opportunity to make suggestions like an edit to a tech pub or augment a training program. There's another comment here. Let me see. Oh, Andy. Yes, sabotage is rarely evident. Yeah, I agree, Andy. And in my experience, we can never remove, I don't know, evil or negativity. You can never completely do away with it. In my experience, for the most part, people have good intentions. especially when it comes to the equipment experts. They love their equipment, they love their job, and they care about it. So yeah, for the most part, people just want to do a good job, and it's our job to give them all the tools, pun intended, to do that job properly. Okay, let's go to the next one. What are some common maintenance challenges you have faced in your career? Okay, I would say that in my RCM career, the biggest challenge I have faced is with management and getting their buy-in and getting them on our side to do safe and effective RCM analyses. So what I mean by that is, RCM can be done efficiently and it can be done cost effectively when it's done correctly with the right people. Now, RCM often gets a bad rap because it's not been done properly a lot in the past. So, when you talk about reliability, sometimes to some people, they kind of shy away from it. Oh, we don't want to do that. It's just going to be a big mess. So, us managers are often kind of turned off, so to speak, from RCM. But it's up to us then to get them on our side. And to do so, I've got a couple of really good recommendations. The first one is that we have to learn to talk to people in their own language, right? So when we're trying to sell reliability centered maintenance to get it implemented in our organization, it's really important to talk in the language of the other person, in this case, a manager, right? Well, what are they concerned about? They're concerned about downtime, increased costs. They're concerned about having the right number of, people to operate machines. So if we want to sell reliability centered maintenance and we start talking to a manager about functions and failure modes and P2F intervals and, all the technical stuff associated with RCM, their eyes are going to start to gloss over. So we need to talk to them in their language. And that is, hey, I really think if we apply this properly, we can solve the problem of this chronic downtime or increased costs. So it's important for us to get out of our own heads, right? Because in my head, I'm in the RCM world, the 7 questions of RCM, the technical part of it, the FMEA and how to build it and all this stuff. So when I talk to a manager, I have to remember that for my own self. I have to take my own advice and not geek out about all the technical stuff, but meet him where he is, right? Meet her where she is with her needs and her desires and talk in that language. Okay, so let me say, T.A. Morton, thank you for joining. Thank you. Management sometimes thinks it's too time consuming. However, it's more time consuming and financially draining when failures occur. Absolutely. Oftentimes when people say, yeah, RCM is way too expensive to do, depending upon the situation, sometimes I say, wait till you get the bill for not doing it. But it's our job, as if you're the RCM champion or someone that or someone who wants to start implementing RCM, it's really important to understand what RCM really is and to implement it properly so that you don't get into like an RCM tornado, or you go down the rabbit hole where you're identifying failure modes wrongly, or you're just doing the RCM process wrong, because that's one of the biggest reasons for RCM failure. It's RCM rarely fails. It's the implementation of it. So yeah, that's on us. That's on us to do to make sure we do a better job at that. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna get answer at a very high level. I'm going to answer this question, but then I'm going to plan to do a live on artificial intelligence and reliability centered maintenance. I was asked this question, and I've never been asked it before. How can we utilize AI in RCM? So, off the top of my head, one of the ways, and I've not tried it yet, but I want to try it by doing this, and I want to try it doing live before I even try and do it for myself, just because it would be a fun experiment. But one of the ways that it could possibly help is maybe it could help brainstorm failure modes. We have to make sure we write failure modes at the right level, that they're not too detailed. We don't want to go into the weeds of it. But if we have, like a motor or a compressor or whatever it is we're doing, we maybe could chat with AI and ask, hey, what specifically could cause this component to fail, and see what it comes back with. Now, I wouldn't stop there. You definitely need to start working. You definitely need to first start working with your RCM working group and brainstorming with them. So AI would not be a first stop, but it could be a way to make sure, hey, did I think of all the failure modes? Did I miss any? And hey, if anyone watching has an RCM question that's not covered here, you can put it in the chat. I want to see someone Ahmed. Hi, Nancy. Totally agree about same language focus about targets, especially points related to cost. Yeah, absolutely. And I see this quite frequently where we're in a meeting or something, and someone will stop talking, and you can see management's eyes just kind of glazing over, or someone's answering a question, and they're kind of going all around the world to answer it, given all the technical details, and instead of just the answer that the person wants. So yeah, that's super, super important. Those were all the questions from the webinar, but I recorded a podcast with someone today, and I'd like to share a couple of those things with you before I sign off. Okay, it was another question. Let me see, wait a minute. Yes, it was another question related to management. But it was the question was, what could cause RCM to fail, or any reliability improvement initiative for that matter, from the management level? Like, what at the management level could cause that to fail? And I have two thoughts about that. Okay, the first thing is that oftentimes management doesn't understand the basics. Now, when it comes to maintenance and reliability, in order for any initiative to be successful, you have to understand it, and you have to understand the basics of maintenance and reliability. And a lot of times management will maybe leave those details to everybody else, but the problem is that management is the one that is going to review the results and decide to move, if you should move forward and maybe do more and spend more money on that type of an initiative. But if they don't understand the initiative and they don't understand the basics, then they're not going to be able to properly judge it. So a lot of times, their mind is on, other stuff, or maybe more complex areas, instead of really trying to understand it. So that's another reason why reliability centered maintenance could fail. All right, so there you have it. I just wanted to have a quick live session just to share some of these questions and answers that came up last week. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Oh, Andy, wait, let me see your comment. Management's ears prick up when money, time, resources, and safety are identified as outputs. Less of the first three with a safer workplace. Absolutely, right? It's all about being proactive versus reactive. Thank you, Andy, so much for joining. Thank you for your comments. Oh, TA Morton, management knowledge of RCM course. Oh, of RCM course. Thanks. Yes. Yeah. And, and before I sign off, I'll just say this one more thing. It is up to us also to identify what kind of training everyone needs, right? So a manager doesn't need the same training that an RCM working group member is going to have. I mean, the more training, the better. But if they don't have the time to sit through a 2 or 3 day introductory course, maybe maybe just a couple of hour comprehensive overview would be good for them. And really that goes for any initiative. So yes, thank you again. Thank you again for all your comments. Thank you for your attention. And I promise I will be back soon. I've got a bunch of stuff I would really like to share with you and to talk to you about. So thank you again for joining, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day and evening, everyone. Bye-bye.